Hey, welcome back to the Honda Urban Express 50/50 project, where we're trying to make a 50cc Honda Urban Express attain 50 miles an hour. And if you've been following the series, we've been making, slow progress, but, this is difficult. And who knows if we'll even make it, but the victory is in trying, I suppose. But I think we got an okay shot. I thought I'd talk about a couple things, hopefully real quick. So I will bring you over this way if you don't mind. So as I was saying in the last two videos, I was going to have Travis, we'll say machine or mill this bushing down, right? So the way this works is this, as the roller weights roll up to the top of the variator, it pushes this out. Now if we take a few millimeters off of it, this pulley is going to sit a few millimeters closer. And if there's a belt in there, that belt can't sit as far down. But it will travel a little bit higher on the pulley. And like a 10-speed, back in the day, or, a 21-speed, whatever you grew up with, on the front sprocket, if you put the chain on the highest sprocket, the largest sprocket in the front, and the smallest sprocket in the back, now as this is going higher, this side is going lower. And so you're basically getting, the tallest gear you can. So that's the idea there. Hopefully that is somewhat clear. And then, of course, you might have seen I have many different belts. This is another stock belt that's slightly worn. And some of you might have said or might be saying, well, why not just throw on the thickest, longest belt you have at the very start? Well, the thicker and longer belt you have, unlike a 10-speed where you can't, the chain size stays constant. Here, the belt size can change, and a thicker, longer belt can travel further up the pulley. The problem is I've already got a 16-inch rear wheel, and if you go to a bigger wheel, the stock wheel is 14 inches. If you go to a bigger wheel, you're automatically making a taller gear. So if I throw on the thickest, longest belt with this already 16-inch wheel, I'm creating, really, really massively tall gear. And the question becomes, will the engine be able to turn that big a gear? So that's why I've just kind of been proceeding up That's why I've been kind of proceeding up little by little. I guess, I could just throw on the BX31 belt and, see what it does. But I'm going to try something else. And I'd remembered this, I'd forgotten this, back in the day when I was working on Joey Bone Crusher's Urban Express. I discovered this little trick. Before I get to the trick, I also had 39 grams in here, and I've decided to go to 36 because what I discovered in working on the Bone Crusher's Urban Express was that if you just flip the belt's tapered, right? So normally it's thickest on the top and narrowest at the bottom. And if you flip the belt, you get, the bottom edge is what you're concerned about. That's right, what's really riding up and down the pulleys, because the pulleys are tapered too. And since this is a little worn, it's not too thick, but it's thicker than the other stock belt, newer belt I have. It's thicker than the bottom side of the newer stock belt I have. So anyways, and on an older belt, they kind of get more compliant. A newer belt will want to, I've had them try to flip back on the Honda Express SR, but this one I think is old enough and worn enough that it'll stay flipped like this. So the reverse belt trick, totally forgot about that. Then I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, oh my God, I completely forgot about that. So it's an incremental change in the belt, and the thicker the belt is, the higher it will ride up in this pulley, and the faster you will go. Now, I'm creating a taller gear, of course, but I think to accommodate for that, I went down to 36 ounces in the variator. Let's see if we can get these pulleys. Things are falling apart. That'll happen in life. And I've got a gray contra spring on the back here. There we go. So it's slightly stronger than the yellow contra spring, but not as strong as the red contra spring. And this has a GY6 clutch. And you know, if you're going to tinker, I was going to say monkey. If you're going to tinker with the Urban Express, you know, you've got to learn how these gears line up, and you can't be afraid. You know, it's a little bit of a hassle to get them back in, but once you've done it 85,000 times, not such a problem anymore. But don't let, you know, this gearing stuff stop you from working on it. You just got to overcome that, and you got to do it. So let me think here, all that talk. We've got 36 ounces. We got the belt flipped. So also, now 1 second, we'll move you around. We'll move you to the exhaust side. Also, during this entire time, wow, all except for the last 2 runs on film, where am I in life? This exhaust really hasn't been hitting. The last couple times I felt it kind of hit, you know. It gave forth a pedestrian effort, but I could feel it. And, you know, I haven't really been able to take it. What the hell is this stuff? Fiberglass stuff coming out the back already? Nice. Anyhow, what am I saying? Haven't really been able to take advantage of the exhaust. Hasn't been really giving me an advantage. How about that? Now, if you put like a bigger top end on, you know, it's no problem to get this exhaust to hit. And that's really on a stock engine. Getting this MLM People's Pipe to hit is very difficult, because you run into the 2-speed conundrum, is what I call it anyways. We'll go back over this side, and I'll put in this stuff while I yakety yak. The 2-speed conundrum is, you know, even though this is a continuously variable transmission, right, allegedly, it really behaves like a 2-speed for the most part. You can, you know, even get it to behave like a 3-speed if you want, if you notch the variator. And haven't had to go to that just yet. But anyways, right around in the low 20-mile-an-hour range, you feel it shift from, you know, what I'll say first to second gear. And as you're going along in first gear, you're building RPMs, building RPMs, building RPMs, and then you hit 22, 23 miles an hour, whatever, and it shifts. And when it shifts, the RPMs drop down. And I forget what they usually do on the stock engine. Usually get up around 8,000, 8,100 RPMs. And I think this pipe hits around 8,500 RPMs. Don't quote me on that, but you know, we'll just, you know, use that as the example, and I think it's pretty close. So you know, you're building up to 8,000, 8,100 RPMs, and what I mean when the pipe hits is there's a range where that pipe works in tune with your engine and in a power band, and you should feel it like kick you in the butt with a burst of power for that specific range of RPMs, whatever it might be, you know, 8,500 to 9,500 or something like that, or 8,500 to 9,000, who knows. But basically the pipe, the performance pipe, the chambered pipe, is working in conjunction with your engine to, you know, maybe not the best word, but supercharge your engine, pack more fuel air mixture in the engine than normal. And you know, I really need that to, you know, get this last 6 miles an hour or whatever. But you know, that shift from first to second gear, you lose all those RPMs. You know, maybe it drops back to like 6,500, then it's building up, building up, building up, building up, and I'm not quite getting the 8,500 for the pipe to really kick in. So that's a problem there. Maybe through changes in jetting, and I've changed the jetting to a 20 pilot jet, a 72.5 main jet, and maybe if I up the compression, maybe I can get it to that 8,500 mark and get that pipe to hit. We'll see. And then probably the last change, try not to blab on too much, but you know, the last change I'm contemplating on this round is I've got this huge 3.5-inch front tire, and maybe I need to go to a more normal front tire for a couple reasons. One, it would weigh less. Two, you know, instead of sitting at a slight angle up, you know, maybe I'm sitting more level or even kind of down some. And you'd be surprised, you know, if you can get yourself to sit an inch or so lower, you don't have as much wind drag on you. Doesn't sound like much, but it's true, because when I made that hybrid Urban Express Honda Express bike, I had that huge shock and I was sitting way up in the air, and you know, the wind really would affect you, you know, just kill your top speed. So, plus my speedometer, the regular mechanical speedometer will read a lot more accurately with a more normal size tire. Right now it reads about 3 miles an hour slow. So I might do that today as well. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to talk about. So I'll button this up and maybe get to that tire later today, and we'll see if I get a chance to take it out for a run as well. And I guess I'll talk about one more thing I was thinking about. So I don't know if you can see in there, but there's an intake that carburetor sits on, and we'll go around to the other side. I don't know if that's any better. Got wiring and all kinds of stuff in the way. But that intake is kind of long, and a couple rules to know. You can apply this to other bikes as well. The Honda Express has a stock intake that's really long. The stock intake on the Urban Express is a lot shorter. But anyways, the longer the intake, you know, the more top end you're going to lose. Same thing with the exhaust. The longer the header, the more top end you'll lose. So I've got a VM20 carb, and I think the intake is just, I'd have to measure them. They're on a curve. It might just be a hair shorter. I guess if I wanted to, I could even, well, I could probably cut off a 1/4 inch of this intake as well and still get it to work right. But I'll try to measure them both. And if the VM20 intake is shorter, hopefully by about a 1/2 inch at least, I might switch intakes and carbs. Of course, then I got to go through the whole jetting thing. But on that carb, I've got the dial-a-jet on it, where you can just dial, rich or leanness. So that wouldn't be so bad. So I'll look into that. Maybe somebody out there knows. Do you know if the MLM VM18 intake for the Urban Express is longer than the MLM VM20 intake for the Urban Express? And if so, what's the difference in length, and would it be worth changing it out? All right, I'm going to button this up before I just yak on forever. Okay, did any of you catch that I forgot to put on the pulley half? I discovered that as I was putting the cover back on, so don't worry about it, it was done. Okay, after some debate, I decided to swap out the front tire. Here is the new front tire. And I can put the fender back down now. But anyways, here's the old next to the new. I don't know if you can tell on film, but that tire is like 2 inches taller than the new tire. It's ridiculous. We'll come over here. I mean, that tire is almost coming above the fender. So, I'm going to say we're going to sit an inch or so lower, which doesn't sound like much, but it'll make a difference. Believe me, you. And this is what I'm talking about. So on your left is a 16 by 2 1/4 inch tire, and on your right, I think maybe it's 2 1/2. Let's double check. No, I was right. 16 by 2 1/4. And on your right is a 16 by 3 inch wide tire. So they're both 16 inch tires, but look how much taller that tire on the right is. It's almost 2 inches taller, maybe even more. It's ridiculous. Here, I'm gonna put you down further so you can see this. Okay, you see what I'm talking about now? And the tire on the right isn't even standing straight. So, I mean, it's huge. So, imagine, you talk about a gearing change. Imagine if I stuck this thing on the rear wheel, and it would fit. I've got enough width in the back to stick this on. So, do I want to even do that? No, I don't want to do that. I've got a 2.75 inch tire in the back, so this would be a little taller, but I got enough gearing stuff I can do before I start having to change tires again. So, and the one on the left is considerably lighter than that tire on the right. I mean, it feels like at least a pound or two lighter. I mean, this is just massive. It's massive, and it's kind of funny. But anyhow, that's what I'm talking about. For the rear wheel, a wider tire is a taller tire. And there you go. There's proof. All right, man. I guess next thing we have to do is go out for a ride. how's it going to perform now? Again, summary of changes. Obviously the tire change in the front, make it sit lower and less weight. And we might have to start stripping off more weight in the future. Variator down to 36 grams from 39. We're running a stock belt inside out. Jetting 72.25 main, or 72.5 main jet, 20 pilot jet. And the only other thing I've done so far is I sanded the cylinder head mating surface flat. So maybe a slight bump in compression and less chance of an air leak. See you on the road. Here's the Urban Express Sprint bike. As you can see, or maybe, and as some of you already know, I went to even a smaller front tire. That is a 14-inch front tire. The idea being that it would sit lower and I'd have less wind resistance. And an update, I ended up going back to 39 grams in the variator. I ended up putting on the other stock belt because I broke this stock belt that I had reversed. I guess it was just too old. Oh well, that'll happen. And then my jetting in the carb is a 25 idle jet now. The needle clip is on the richest setting and a 72.5 main jet in the VM18 carburetor. After this clip, I'm going to put in my speed run, me riding the bike, and I get the best speed of the day on the second part. You'll see I stall out at a red light, and then when I tuck on the second run, I get my best speed of the day, and then I reveal that at the end. So stay tuned. It's coming up right about now. Why did this thing die?